Hey, right, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com as we continue to make a website with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to make, let's say, a two-column design. Okay, so that way there's sort of a bigger column that's supposed to be sort of your main content, so sort of the stuff that would be in your blog, and then your side menu. Okay, so first thing we want to do is we're going to want to put a container for that, which is our main. So let's go back to our index.html and just make sure that we have the right stuff for that. We do have main. We can use it as our container where we'll contain those two columns. And as I mentioned before, we have those semantic tabs. So our bigger of the two columns can be the article tag. Okay, and our other one will be the aside, our sidebar. Okay, and we're going to just fill them up with sample text. So we're just type in lorem. Okay, so that way we just have something to play with. Save. Okay, and let's see here. So right now the two of them are on top of each other because they're both block elements. Aside and article are both block elements inside that main block, but they're going to be piled on top of each other. Okay, so if I go back to my elements, so let me bring this back up. Okay, so let's get out of nav. If I go to my main block, I see that I have, so the main block is this full block with both gives or both tags with the article block and the aside block. What I really want them is to be two columns. So how would I do that? What you're going to do is you're going to use something called a Flexbox. There are other ways to do this. The old way of doing it, which was called the float, is a horrible, horrible thing that hopefully you'll never have to worry about. And there's another really cool way of doing it called grid. But Flexbox is a nice middle ground for learning. Okay, and has some extra flexibility we'll enjoy later on. Okay, so how do I do it? First step in my index CSS is we're going to take that main tag, and always sorry for all the background noises. I live in Brooklyn, so there's always cars honking and sirens going. Not much I can really do about that. But in our main tag, we're going to create a style. So again, I'm in the CSS file. So far we haven't worked in the JavaScript file. We will eventually. Okay, so main, what do I want to do here? We want to make it a flexbox, which means that by default, the divs in the box will form a row of columns. Display, flex, save. So when I do that, these should become now two columns. Cool. They're two columns. They're two equally sized columns, which is not exactly what I wanted. I wanted like a bigger column and then a smaller column. Okay, but let's first play a little bit. Okay, let's see here. Anything I want to do in here first? Let's just create some padding in here. Okay, so that way the text is not also bunched up to the edge. So padding, we'll say 5 pixels to start off with. See how that looks, and then we can always add or subtract depending. That'll work for now. Let's add 2 more. Save. Okay, right now you can't really see it because that actually looked like it bunched closer together. That's because at the current width, it's not able to give me that extra space, so it's pushing the text together. So I'll go back to 5. Which wouldn't be the issue on a bigger screen. So like if I do this, there's plenty of space. There would be plenty of space for the padding. But we'll leave it at that for now. Cool. So now what I want to do is make these columns different sizes. So those 2 columns, one of them is my article tag. That's going to be the one I want bigger. So we're going to say that the width of this one is going to be 60%. Of the width. And then the other one is called the aside. So we want to set both of them up now so that we don't create any weirdness. Width, we'll say, is 25%. Because we're going to want to leave some white space. And you'll see what I'm going to do with that in a second. So save. Right now it'll probably look like they're all kind of skewed to the left, which won't be too pretty. Yep. Okay, so basically this one's a fixed width of 60%, and this one's a fixed width of 25%. So this is like 15% that's hanging out over here on the side. I'd rather there be that space more distributed between them. So I have to go back to my Flexbox main here and look up justify contents. So justify contents, the tag I want. And I would like there to be sort of equal space in between, but both of them kind of pushing up against the edges. So we'll do space, I think it's space between. You know, and whenever you're trying to do something, just Google it. You'll find the right attributes to get what you want. Although these are some of the tried and true tricks. That doesn't quite look the way I'd like either. So there's another one where it doesn't just do space in between them, but space around them. So let's try that one, space around. Let's hit save and see how that looks. Yeah, it looks a bit better. Now let's give these a border so that way you can kind of see them a little bit better. So let's create a border for article. We'll say it's 2 pixels. It's a solid line. And we'll make it black just to keep it simple for right now. And I'm going to do the same thing on the aside. Save. So then let's refresh. Okay. And there you go. Not the prettiest thing in the world. And you can see that the text is a little bunched up against the border. So that means padding is warranted. So let's create some padding. Padding 5 pixels. So notice how much of the website I'm changing just through the CSS. The CSS really should be doing all your visual stuff. Okay, I determine what text, what words are on there through the HTML, but it's the CSS that should be doing most of the visual art stuff. So I save the padding. That should give a little more space away from the borders. And there we go. Okay, so you got a little bit more space there. It doesn't look quite as claustrophobic as it did a second ago. I could probably afford to give it a little bit more. Let's give it a lot more. Let's do 10 pics. So if I go like this, how does it look there? Okay, that'll work. Okay. Nah, I won't curve the corners. You can just do border radius if you want to curve the corners. And again, you can choose different colors, put in some text. I want you to actually sort of make a website of some sort, whether it's about something you're interested in or a little bio of yourself, because we're going to actually put this up on the web when this whole series of videos is done. Okay, so that's all fun and well. Okay. And then you can just go from there and just keep adding more stuff. You can put in more divs in here to be in buttons and things like that. So for example, let's say we get a button that's inside the aside. Okay, not the aside, the main tag or the article tag, the big column. So we'll say a button, which I think is its own block if I remember correctly. We'll find out in a moment. Okay, so when you create a button, what's inside the button is the word on the button. Whereas what the button says. So push me. Okay, now the thing about buttons is a little bit different than a link. That what the button does, that's going to have to be done in JavaScript. Okay, so that will have to cross a lot later. I'll show you another way to make a button if you just wanted to make it a link that goes to another website. Okay, actually we can do a quick tutorial on that now too. So let's see here. Let's do here, show you what the button looks like. So the button's an inline object. So you notice I'll see how the push me button didn't show up at the bottom below the paragraph. It showed up right there in line. That's how you can tell something's in line. So in that case, there's a couple different ways I could do it. I could use CSS to turn it into a block. Like in the same way I made that a Flexbox by saying display flex, I could take an inline element and make it a block by saying display block. And I can take an inline element. You can go both ways. You can turn a block into an inline element and inline element into a block. So anything is possible. Okay, so let's see here. I will, but sometimes the easiest way is just to use the really old-fashioned way of doing it, just putting in a break, which is the BR tag. It just means break. It's like hitting enter on your keyboard. Okay, so if I hit enter on my keyboard, HTML doesn't know what I'm doing. Okay, if I put a break in the paragraph, it'll look prettier in the file, but HTML will just put it up as one big block of text. So if I want to go to the next line, BR is the way I do it. And this is certain tags don't need a closing tag. BR and the tag for images are going to be the two main ones that don't. So save. Let's see how that looks. Okay, see now that button is in a much better place. And this thing's to keep bothering me too. Let's see here to say never translate Latin. Oh, so that lorem ipsum is Latin. Let's see what it translates into. I've always wondered. Things to do over the years that will come. Who will introduce and criticize and to do? Okay, whatever. You get the point. Okay. Anyways, now we want to make that button look prettier. Okay, because that's kind of an ugly button. So you can sell it like you can sell anything else. It doesn't have to look like this really ugly gray gradient like it's from the mid 90s. So I can just go into my CSS and say, hey, you know what? If there's any buttons in my article tag, let's style it. Okay. Notice I haven't, and if you're aware, there's other things I can do to identify my tags. I can put in what's called a class or an ID, and I haven't done that yet. So you can get a lot of mileage with these semantic tags as far as really just breaking down your content and styling it without having to use those extra bits. Okay, so article button. Let's say, okay, well, let's give it some padding for sure. So padding 10 pixels. Let's say the background color is maroon. Let's say the color of the font is white. Let's make the color of the font white. Let's start there. Save. Okay, we're getting there. Still kind of buttony to me. Okay. Padding didn't quite take the effect the way I would have liked. Let's make it a little bit more rounded off. Border radius. Let's make that 20 pixels. Save. That's looking a little bit better. Still has that embossed border. Let's say border color black. Yeah, that's looking a lot better. Okay. And that's a much more attractive button, but buttons don't automatically turn. See, like notice, like how am I supposed to know other than it says push me that I can push that button? So I might want to put like there's a couple different things I can do. I can make it change the cursors by adding the property cursor and change it to pointer. So that way when you hover over it, you see a pointer cursor. So save. Never translate line. Okay. So see that. Oh, and I can also put a hover. Okay, so I can be like article button hover, and just do like I did before, where I can change the background color. Except instead of changing it white, I'll make it yellow. Why not? Color maroon. And you don't have to type in. You can there's like different color codes you can put in there. Just doing this for quicker, using some of the names I know as far as colors off the top of my head because it just makes things a little bit quicker. So the focus on teaching. Okay. So now if I refresh this, okay, wait, did I do that right? Let's see here. Color, background color, article, button. Oh, there's a space there. Hover. Okay, so let's see here. Let me save that. Let's break this up. Article button hover. That should work. Background color yellow, color maroon. See here, refresh. There we go. Yeah, it's working. Cool. Push me. Push me. Now, what if I did want to make something happen when that button happens? Okay. So what you're going to want to do is put what's called, actually, we'll show you the HTML way of doing it. So I can go to index, I can go to index.js, and I have to make a function. Okay, and the way you make a function is you have to declare const. That means constant. So that means what this function does is never going to be changed, which is fine. We're going to call this function push me. Okay. Now this function is going to equal parentheses. The parentheses are where I'm allowed to put parameters. I highly recommend watching my video series on learning JavaScript to understand this better. I'm not going to spend too much time explaining the ins and outs of programming because the JavaScript we're going to be using for a lot of this is going to be most part light, nothing crazy. But you can watch my video set on JavaScript to learn JavaScript even better and learn some cool tricks. Okay, but basically what you do is that once you put the parentheses, which represents parameters, we're not. What I said. Oh, Google. Okay. Const push me. The parentheses represents my parameters, which I'm not going to take any parameters. Then I'm going to do equal with a little caret, just making it an arrow. This is why they call it an arrow function. Then I do squirrely brackets, and inside these brackets is my function. And we're just going to say alert. Alert just means it's going to do a pop-up alert. Okay. Push me. Oh, you've pushed me. Oh. Now here's the thing. Since I've already, the quotation mark, the single quotes tells you what text I'm printing. So if I use a single quote during my in my quote, it kind of messes things up. So what I have to do is I have to use this forward slash. That's called the escape character. So you've pushed me. Okay, save. Cool, now I have that function. So now I can go back to my index HTML, and in my button, I can do on. You'll see all these ons, these are different like event triggers. And on change means like if anything changes as far as text for like an input box. On click if someone clicks it or someone closes it. There's all these different ons, meaning when this event happens. This is the most popular one, probably on click. So if you click on it, do this. And here you're going to put the name of the function. And it's case sensitive, so you got to make sure you got the exact rank. So push me. So in that push, oh nope, I'm already messing it up. Push me. And that's called camel casing. You start out lowercase, but every word after that is capitalized. So it's like a camel with humps. So save. So now when I click that button, it's going to run that push me function, which they find in my JavaScript file. So that's where the JavaScript file comes in the early days. It gets more complicated later on, but in the beginning, you're basically creating functions that tell what your buttons do, and then assigning those functions to your buttons. Okay, so save. Let's refresh, and let's see if it works. Push me, and it doesn't work. Let's see where I made a mistake. Okay, const push me equals alert. Well, I should put a semicolon here at the end of each command. You can either put a semicolon. That shouldn't be the problem though. Okay, let me go back to my index.html button on click equals you push me. That should do what we needed to do. Let me make sure that my JavaScript is linked, although we did test that out before, so that should be all good. There's my JavaScript script link connecting the file to my HTML file. So let's save and try it again. Refresh. Let's figure it out. Okay, so here was the deal. Okay. Okay, HP, whatever. Okay. Now let's go back down to where my button was. What was missing is I had to put the parentheses saying that I didn't take any parameters. Okay, which I have to do for a button. I've been doing a lot of time with jQuery the last few days, which is a JavaScript library where when you're doing on-click events for using jQuery, you don't put the parentheses, or else it runs the function right away. So that's why I initially wasn't doing that. But it's been a while since I've assigned the buttons to the clicks. But yeah, so now this should work. So let's refresh. And it works. You've pushed me. Okay, so that's the idea there. So you're seeing how kind of all this connects. So as you learn JavaScript, you can create more complicated functions that do cool stuff. Okay, and I'll see you guys in the next video. We'll play some more and try out some more stuff.